Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beach Court podcast. It's December. It's almost the end of year. We're going to talk about the best decks of 2024. We're going to give you our top 10 decks of this season. Not the season, this calendar year, going all the way back to January. We got some bangers and some throwbacks we'll talk about today. We had a little bit of duking session before we joined today because Maddox wanted to put some decks in the top 10 that we were all like, nah, dude, Sable's Art's terrible. Like, don't put that in top
Whoa.
10.
Wait,
Oh,
we're talking about the guy who wanted Future in the top 10.
yeah. There's
Uh,
no future for you.
no future for you. Speaking of the future, today is Maddox Corcoran's birthday. Happy birthday, Maddox. He is 29 years young. Of course, we'll take a look at the Stuttgart meta and talk about the results and what happened in day two. But then we'll close out the episode with the best decks of 2024. We'll give you our top 10. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. But first off, Parker, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Happy
Happy
birthday to
birthday to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
dear
dear
Maddox.
Maddox.
Happy
Happy
birthday to
birthday to
you.
you.
Hey.
Oh,
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, y'all. I gotta do the move back and forth awkwardly because if not, I'm just like sitting awkwardly. I'm sure y'all have had that as a birthday when like everyone's singing around you and they're like going super slow and you're just like sitting there and be like watching the wax drip onto your cake and stuff and being like, "Can we further this up? Like, I need to do something other than be sung at." No,
Yeah.
appreciate you guys.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us on your birthday. We're happy to have you here.
Yeah, no, it's always good to record the pod. It's tough, we're recording on a Monday, so it's tricky back to work after Thanksgiving holiday. So kind of regular day for me, but I got to celebrate some this past weekend with family in New Orleans. Again, my little NAIC preview session. No, I have some family that lives in New Orleans, and then we'll do some stuff later, and hopefully this week with y'all at some of our locals and stuff later. So looking forward to that.
I know a place where you can get some really good sake. Have
Ooh,
you heard of them? Called
some
Nakama
very
Anime
good
Cafe.
karaoke. Do they play Pokemon there
No,
at Nakama Anime Cafe?
at the cafe, not the bar.
We go to the bar after we play some
We'll go to the
Pokemon.
bar afterwards. Yeah.
Fantastic. So,
Parker, what's your weekend been up to?
what did I even do this weekend?
Or this
Uh,
week?
I don't remember what I did this week either. What did I
Thanksgiving?
do?
Did you get anything?
I
Did you
did. I
eat any
ate.
food?
I ate the typical turkey green bean casserole, carrots, the stuffing.
Is carrots a usual at Thanksgiving?
I don't
No,
know. I feel like I've usually had it most years, but
I've never
maybe
had
it's
it.
not. No, carrots. Yeah, I must live with a bunch of bunnies or something like that.
Comment below if you eat carrots.
If you eat carrots, like this episode, 10 years later, no likes.
Nobody eats
Just
carrots.
Parker. Parker's
Just
Uh,
home.
me.
I like
yeah,
carrots.
Parker, highlight one dish. What was your favorite dish at Thanksgiving?
Um, the green bean casserole.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a
Ma-
classic.
I
Max,
know I don't look like it, but I love vegetables. Most of them.
you also love McDonald's.
Yes.
I mean, who doesn't, right? So
Maddox, what was your favorite dish on the table?
go-to Thanksgiving dish for me is my dad makes this incredible cornbread stuffing or cornbread dressing. For any of
Dressing.
them, anyone who's too traditional and says the dressing is cooked outside of the turkey while stuffing is cooked inside of the turkey. But a bunch of breads plus some fruit and a sausage actually makes cornbread dressing really, really good.
Really?
That's
Some
my favorite. Yeah,
sausage, huh?
yeah, very, very good.
Sausage.
So
Sounds really good. My favorite was there was a sweet potato casserole. Love that every year. It's so good. Brown sugar on top.
mm.
Perfect. But my aunt this year, she went all out. She brought like this peanut butter dish, like for
Whoa,
dessert, right? It's like almost like a peanut butter pie, but it's like peanut butter. It's got M&Ms on top, and at the very bottom, and I was not expecting this, there was Nutter Butters as the base.
ooh.
Bro, it was so good. Needless to say, when the update comes out tomorrow for my weight, it probably might not be very good. But we'll see.
Eh, it's a holiday. We
It's a
got
holiday
time to
week.
hop
Yeah,
on the grind before San Antonio. We'll
yeah.
hit some weights in Toronto
We'll
or
hit some weight.
something.
I'm gonna
We'll go
freeze
running in the
all of
zero
my
degree
body off
weather.
in Toronto, so it's gonna be fine. All right. Well, I also, before we jump into Stuttgart, I did win a cup this weekend in Statesboro. So that was a lot of fun. Thanks to special out to Tommy to driving us up there with his little, crotch rocket car. He was having fun driving that, and I was having fun in the passenger seat watching Tropicos tear it apart in Stuttgart. But yeah, I played Ancient Box. Deck feels really good right now, and just took it down. Beat Drago in finals, and there was a Snorlax running around the room. He was scared of me all day long, and he finally got me in top four, and he was not happy.
You
Maddox,
play one copy of Petron and your entire deck falls apart.
Maddox, remember that one tournament where like I'm sitting next to you against Snorlax and I don't care?
Oh yeah,
I just felt like that. Like I was just like watching the match next to me, just like, oh, okay, my turn. Oh, Petrant, attack.
yeah. Shout out to
Yeah.
Jared Watilla in
Yeah.
actually in San Antonio last year in 2023.
Yeah, it was San Antonio. That's right. Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump over to Stuttgart Meta and let's talk about that for a little bit. We did have another mirror in finals. Last two tournaments we've had mirrors in finals. This time, good old
three mirrors,
Charizard
even.
Pidgeot is back. But one person played a weird stadium in their deck. What do we
Right,
think
listen.
about this Pokestop? Wait, well, go ahead. Go ahead. Go.
So right, so we're talking about a Charizard EX deck playing Pokestop made it into
Finals.
finals.
Yeah.
Now listen, I would never play Pokestop in a Charizard deck. However, if it's in play and I don't have a rare candy, I'm hitting that stop almost every time.
And it's 2 energy and a Charizard, and you go, well,
It's cool. Super Rod him back. I'm chilling.
Super Rod. Hey, you can't mill your Super Rods off of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it's like okay, well, like the worst thing I could build would be like Defiance Band
Force
and
Seal
like my
Stone.
counter stadium. But I Arvin last turn and got Stone, so we're fine.
Yeah,
My Stone
yeah.
was prized. Like I'm not. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of hot, honestly. Like little Pokestops in there, and plays the four Ultra Ball, two Nest Ball, and Unfair Stamp, five energies. I mean, kind of like the same stuff we've seen. It just seems like Charizard was well placed coming into this tournament. People weren't respecting it very much, and people were trying to counter Drago as much as possible because it's been tearing through everything. So this Cloth Terapagos deck kind of showed up, and a lot of people played it. And of course, they did well versus, Drago because they took a good matchup into it. And then Charizard just took advantage of them having a good matchup, right? We're kind of in that we're kind of in that rock, paper, scissors, shoot, waterfall, fireball format, right? This like it's not like a triangle, right? It's like five decks, like five or six decks that like every tournament, like depending on what you hit, you can just do well, right?
yeah.
So we don't have the full day two results still on the regional for Stuttgart, but the rest of the top eight rounds out. We had a Palkia Noctowl, Palkia Terapagos in top eight, which I like to see. I worked on that deck for a while. We had Gardevoir in top eight. And we also had coming in at first place overall into the cut, we had Dragapult Iron Thorns with a 1/1 Toad Scroll.
Mhm.
Does anyone remember what Toad Scroll does?
Um, can I just say it, or
Go
Yeah.
for it.
when you can't get stuff back from your graveyard,
Your opponent.
Your
or
part.
your opponent.
Also, saying Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a discard pile.
Okay, yeah, discard pile. My bad.
Yeah. So
But yeah, preventing superior energy retrieval, preventing Night Stretcher from working, preventing Pokestop. actually,
Pokestop.
is the big
Pokes-
thing because the way Pokestop's written is items get discarded and then you put them into your hand. So
Yes.
Toad Scroll even shuts off the effect of it. Just Pokestop becomes discard the top three cards of your deck.
Toad Scroll's ability, Slime Mold Colony. Cards in your opponent's discard pile can't be put into their hand by an effect of your opponent's abilities or trainer cards. Pokestop is a trainer card, and so when you put them into your discard pile, you cannot put them back in your hand. So pretty interesting, honestly. I would imagine that mostly this was meant for Goldango, because in Europe, what's his name? Yell plays Goldango, and it's pretty good right now, and other people are playing Goldango. So I'd imagine it's for that because that matchup seems pretty bad without it. Because they can just blow up your Dragon Ball every turn. But yeah,
but also a way to slow down any
any turbo
decks
deck,
like
yeah,
Raging Bolt type
Yep.
of thing, which also give you a tough time.
yeah. So pretty cool tech. It's interesting that it also included Iron Thorns still. You would think maybe you'd cut the Thorns for that, but it seems like the Thorns Dragon Bolt's still doing well. We had two other players, Antoine Boulay and Owen Kammerman, also playing Goldango, as aforementioned, and Robin Schultz with Cloth Terapagos. And again, that deck seems to be catching some fire right now. I have some cards laid out on my desk for Parker this week. He wants an Electrode, a Trolley, and a Oranguru. So here they
Sir.
are. Good old $6 worth of full art cards right there.
There
Wowzers.
you go.
What's
Yeah,
your first impressions of the top eight overall?
To me, it's a little bit surprising to me, honestly.
Where's
Um,
Drago?
yeah, that's my first thing. Is like, where's Drago? Like, I mean, like, surely one of them makes it, right? But I mean,
Surely, yeah.
I guess not. Palkia Noctowl is like surprising to me in a way because like I don't know. I feel like Palkia Dusknoir, Terapagos Dusknoir by themselves are just a little bit more powerful.
I mean, Greninja's
The
a good attacker, man. Just powering up
it
Greninja
is
is
it
so
is
good.
um the Iron Thorns Dragapult kind of surprises me. Like I understand what the deck does, but like still.
Still.
Two Gold Dango is surprising, but like not that surprising at the same time. And then the Cloth Terapagos, I actually think that deck is flames. But the Zard Mirror in finals also a little surprising, but that's another deck that can just beat everything.
yeah. I think the big story from the weekend is this Cloth Terapagos deck, which we previously saw with the top 16, I believe, in what was the regional for the Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Utilizing right Terapagos being able to hit effective 290 after Sneasler Poison and with the Mochi, very very strong and a kind of a new untapped level of Terapagos plus a single prize attacker and Cloth. So we saw a lot of top players choose to bring the deck and actually converted extremely well into day two at Stuttgart. I think I actually saw a stat. I think it had a 55% conversion rate.
Yeah, I saw that
Only had
too.
about 30 players play it, but like 16 of them made day two with it. So very very strong. The other cool deck that we kind of grazed over quickly is there was a Gardevoir in top eight, top four specifically.
Yep.
This one actually played a very unique build of it, leaning on Precious Trolley and leaning into always going second. And it actually played 3 copies of Call Bell.
Yep.
If you don't know what that does, on your second turn going for, or on the if it's your first turn and you're going second, you can use it to search your deck for a supporter card. So really leaning heavily into going second, Call Bell to get Arven for TM Evo and Precious Trolley to fill your board with 4 Ralts. This is a list that I've seen out of those kind of floating around in towards Discord community where
Yeah.
I was talking about this idea of Guardy, you pretty much only lose games we don't set up. So if you just play into getting set up, and if you can end your turn consistently with four, 2 Kirlias, 2 Ralts, and a Munkidori down, like you're probably pretty set. So
Yeah.
pretty cool to see, and a very unique top eight. But no Regidrago, I think is the big surprise. Some of them just missing out.
I mean, this has to be the most consistent Gardevoir deck I've ever seen. With 4 Ultra Ball, a Luminion, and 3 Call Bell, how do you ever miss supporter whenever you want it?
Exactly right. That's saying you have. I mean, you have 4 Arven, you have 3 Call Bell, so 7 plus Luminion for 8, or 8 Raw outs to the supporter plus Ultra Ball to find you any of
That's
those.
crazy.
Or you can go, conceal cards into them, or right, like so many different ways.
I feel like a one of research would still be pretty good, but maybe just Arvin's so much better for the Call Bell. Yeah,
What
probably.
happens if you prize your one Poffin and your one Trolley? Then what?
Scoop it up and go to the next
Just
game.
play Iono and draw into.
No, 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 no. Wait. Let me cook. You play heavy ball. You grab the trolley.
Wait.
All
Aw,
Imagine if they made like a heavy ball, but for your ace spec.
that'd be dope.
all
Would everyone play it?
I
No,
don't know. I don't think so.
absolutely not. I will never prize my ace spec, not even once.
Yeah, of
I don't
course.
need
You would
prime
never.
catcher. It's just a nice to have.
Yeah, it's just a nice to have. Any other kind of spicy decks you guys saw? At least a Twitter post that you want to call out? I know I will. It's also not in Limitless already. But Robin Schultz playing in the Cloth Terapagos deck, a deck full of tools and just needs bench sitters, plays the Genesect. And the Genesect says if you have a tool attached, your opponent can't play an ace spec from their hand. Kind of crazy, honestly. Like if I go with this Gardevoir, you go first. You're like, yeah, nest ball for Genesect, attach something to it. Yeah, there goes your
Uh,
trolley, bud. Like you're
Yeah,
cooked.
nice Charlie.
Yeah, kind of cool though. I like it. I first time I saw the list, I was like, "What's that card?" Oh my god, that's a Genesect. What about you guys? You guys see anything that stood out to you?
one cool list that I saw was Emma Hagen, who played it on stream actually. It got falsely labeled as a Pidgeot control list, but it actually didn't have any control element cards really. It was a Pidgeot like toolbox attacking deck that played a couple copies of Crispin, plus your Radiant Charizard, your Wellspring Ogerpon, a Sylveon EX, as well as Fergaraf
I
EX.
saw the
So
Sylveon.
just a bunch of different ways to kind of deal with your attackers. But also, I played a little bit online. Can get surprisingly aggressive if your opponent goes a little slow. I can just be like, okay, cool. Switch into Ogerpon, Water Ogerpon, attach Sparkling Crystal, attach Double Turbo, and then second attack to KO two things, and then I can just quick search for the Double Turbo again next turn. So like puts on a lot of pressure. I mean honestly, like pretty unique deck. When Emma listed it, they said if you wanted to play control but throw up whenever you use Luxray, this is the deck for you. So.
Wait, so what's the best use for Sylveon?
Well, it's Agalite to just shuffle your Pokemon into the discard. So you can go you can go like Iono to 1 or 2, or you can go Roxanne and then shuffle in right your shuffle in your bench sitters, your counter catcher, something else up, and just leave them with like a board of like nothing on it and like no cards in hand.
Why aren't you leaving the attacker? I guess you could go counter catcher, I guess.
Well, I mean, right. So it's like if you're playing against Zard, right, you can go counter catcher something else. You go counter catcher
Rotom
Manaphy or
or
Rotom or
whatever, yeah.
whatever, and then be like, okay, shuffle in Charizard EX and Pidgeot EX, and you'd be like, oh, where do my guys go?
Where
So
did they go?
That's actually cooking.
yeah,
I
but
love
like,
it.
but no Erie, no Misfortune Sisters, no Luxray, no Mimikyu, even no Cornerstone. Like the only thing that's like pseudo controlly is like the Wellspring Ogerpon, which like I've found it being used as an attacker a lot, and Emma used it as an attacker a lot in the stream game as well. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting.
A very interesting deck. I like to see it. Parker, what about you? Did you see anything cool this weekend?
That was my cool deck, but I was gonna kind of question how. I mean, like I can see the use for like every card in it, obviously, but I was just like, doesn't seem like you can close out games. As, like I guess you can, but like I don't know.
Roxanne Angolite. That's it.
Yeah,
I think it's just bang. I mean, like even just like Radzard and Blood Moon. I think it's just
yeah,
trying to put on pressure that way. I mean, I think it definitely has its rough matchups. Um, if anything, you can like aggressively target down the Pidgeot.
yeah.
Yeah. So very interesting. Now on to the next segment, which is Eric's rant for the weekend. Anyways, I just want to drop some stats because some people saw them on Twitter, and I'm curious of what your thoughts are. 29 out of 35 players in round eight had the opportunity to play for um, 18 match points and decided to take a tie, whether it be naturally or IDing. We had 27 match points bubble from 29th through 40th. And interestingly enough, three tables that had win and ends the top eight ended in a tie. What are your thoughts on those three stat lines?
Um, it is crazy, but a lot of people, and I think we've touched on this before. Like a lot of people, they just want to play in day two.
Yep.
I mean, day two is like super exciting for people. The losing or not losing, the tying out of top eight like is questionable. Maybe they couldn't come to a gentleman's, or maybe they were just like, you know what, I'm fine with the tie. Let's just take the money kind of
Take the money and
thing.
run, baby.
Yeah, but
Yeah, because
I
where
don't
did
know.
those players finish that tied? I did not look at that.
Hopefully top 32.
I
I'm
mean,
sure they did.
yeah, they've got to be right. Yeah, they did. Yeah, top 32.
Yeah,
No.
I think one cool call out and surprise is that Antoine, who ended up making top eight with Goldango, actually ended day one at 5-1-2 and
Yep.
kind of tweeted, "Hey, great to be in day two. Unfortunately, I'm not going to make top eight, but excited to play it out and try to make top 32." Well, so they ended up making top eight. It was kind of the way the tournament worked out is that it was a clean cut at 29 points, which was a
Yeah,
little
seven.
less than
Yeah.
people were expecting. I think all that to say, like I think it's fine to go into a tournament and have different goals than to win the whole tournament.
For sure.
And I think, while I understand not everyone would say, "Oh, I'm at 5-2 and I have the opportunity to play this game and win it," and if I lose it, I don't get to play the next day, or I could, if my opponent offers 90, then I could secure a tie and secure playing tomorrow for the chance to win money still. Um, I think people that are going for that, that's fine. I think if you're not going for that, that's also fine. It's kind of one of those things where, listen, people like to play Pokemon, and if you want to play more Pokemon and your goal is to make a day 2 and have a limitless page, then sure. Again, it's really like a pursue whatever goals you want to. I think the only thing is that, if you are in that position, then you have to understand that if your opponent does not want to ID with you, then, or your opponent says, no, I want to play, then just understand that, they have different goals with you, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to antagonize people for not taking a tie or antagonize people for taking a tie. It's really just, people have different goals than you, and that's okay. So if you're saying, oh, I need a tie here, I would still encourage anyone who is playing a round 8 or a round 9 that doesn't want to still, play the game of Pokemon with the character integrity that you'd want the game of Pokemon to be played at all times.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, well, I just need a tie, so I'm just gonna,
Okay. Justin, I'm still doing the math. There's
Oh,
two.
his name's Maddox, not Justin.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, give me 1 second. Christian, top 64. Oh my goodness.
Spreadsheets. Anyone who can't see, he's got the chalkboard.
I'm out here.
all
I'm
the
out here
lines
cooking.
Eric, if this upset you this much and you've done the research before the podcast,
Well, I did most of it, but I didn't realize these people that ID'd or didn't not ID'd, but that tied, all got top 64.
Well, wait. Well, they were winning in to get to 29 points, right?
They were winning in to get 29.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and I think that's fair in a way too, because
yeah, maybe they didn't think 29 was going to be good enough, right?
Yeah,
that's possible.
I mean, no one would have said 29. I mean, I think the whole system's designed so 29 isn't good enough. But in those cases, just
I mean, I think there's definitely going to be situations where 29 is going to be good enough. So I'd probably play for 29. But yeah, I definitely not 28. 28 won't ever make it.
I'm still waiting for one of those 20-person asymmetrical cuts.
Yeah, one of these days we'll get them. And last thing I want to call out and get your opinions on pricing. Judges, we're given we're giving Stellar Crown, but given the option to get Surging Sparks shipped to them. And from what I've heard so far, all players got Stellar Crown with no option to get Surging Sparks. It's free booster box. There's nothing that says you have to have the newest set, right? There's nothing out there that says it, and it is something you earned. Curious on your takes.
I'm kind of neutral, I guess. Should they have the newest set? Yes, but there's also a bit of a huge demand and supply shortage of it. Hence why maybe they didn't have it.
Yeah.
I know that people were probably disappointed because, in my opinion, I mean, you could, if you wanted, you could turn around and get 150 for a Surging Sparks box easily, and probably have a hard time getting 100 for Stellar Crown box if you purely just wanted to sell the boxes and didn't want to open them.
Right.
But it probably was a bit disappointing to the players, but like you said, it's there's nothing that says they have to give out the new set and stuff like that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I do think it's still probably a little disappointing. I think sometimes I've seen it when it's right on the line of a new set release. I think Charlotte in 2023, Paldea Evolved just came out or was about to come out, but then the pricing was the Scarlet and Violet. Where it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, it's close enough. I think the fact that we've had regionals where Surging Sparks have been given out.
All right, Sacramento got Surging Sparks, right?
Yeah, Sacramento did get Surging Sparks, and then now we have a next regional where we're going back a set. It's a little bit odd. Hopefully, just an honest mistake or some sort of supply chain issue. Again, I think a little disappointing. I don't want to see cases like that again. I'd rather see the latest set, just so everyone is happy and is able to get the most up to date retail value for anyone selling their pack boxes. Because again, that's part of your prizing,
right?
And part of that achievement where some people say, "Hey, I'm excited to just get any product," but other people say, "Hey, it costs me a lot of money to get here. If I'm able to go and get a top 64 and win a couple booster boxes or something and turn around
Sure.
and sell that, then that's a big part of
Yeah, and it's
collecting.
even just access to the newer cards, right? Like maybe someone wants a card that they haven't had access to and they want a chance to open it, right? So
Exactly.
interesting. We'll see. Hopefully, like I said, I agree. I hope it doesn't happen again. It definitely does seem to be a problem. There is a supply chain issue that's going on, and hopefully it gets solved soon. And hopefully it doesn't get worse with Prismatic Evolutions, which leads me to my trivia segment coming up. But before before we do, we have to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Nakama Anime Cafe. Just a reminder, we have a League Cup this weekend, and they will, if we get 25 entries, be giving out a booster box of Surging Sparks for first place. So that's big news, right? We just talked about Surging Sparks being an issue out in Germany, but we got it here in Jacksonville, Florida, and Orange Park. So make your way out to Nakama Anime Cafe this weekend. We have a cap of 30. So 30 is the maximum number of people we will allow. And I will try to get a registration link posted here in the next couple of days for everyone to have opportunity to sign up. It'll be $25 entry, and first place will get a Surging Sparks booster box if we get 25 entries. Sorry to say you're welcome to come, but I'm going to be winning it. So I mean,
Ah.
Maddox thinks he might win it because it's his birthday week or something. We'll see.
I'll have I've been to a cup on my birthday and lost the winning it off of an
Oh,
Iona 2 top deck Candy Czar. And I'm like, all right, I just
wait,
lose
who was
sometimes.
that? What was that?
That was Gainesville last year against McKinley. Shout out McKinley.
Oh,
So
You hit McKinley and you're winning it. You got
yeah,
Iota
I was
too.
playing Marion against Zard, so it was
Yeah,
surprising I was even that close.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's fun. Anyways, let's jump into our trivia segment. You'll be happy to know it's not about prismatic evolutions. So
good.
we,
Oof. Oof. I think my
Gotta
back
save
was
that for
starting
a
to
few weeks
stick to
from
the
now.
chair. Oof.
but yeah, I have my question. I think I had to do a lot of homework for this question, and it took me a little bit to kind of dig deep. I think you guys have a good chance at getting it. Maybe not all pieces of it. But are you guys ready for this week's trivia question?
Let's get it.
All right, as we begin our countdown of the best decks of 2024, every now and then we have like 160 card deck list that has a lot of limitless entries. And in 2024, only two decks have had more than 20 limitless entries that included a win. So one of the 20 or more entries has a first place entry. What are the two decks and who were the winners with those two decks?
I know Drago's one of them,
Yeah,
right?
so Drake, so the John Eng list from Dortmund, which James Cox won the one regional with, and then Brent Thompson got second with us. That's definitely at 20,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
and
Other,
then go
is
ahead.
it Reagan's Lugia list?
But that's too long ago, man.
Is it too long ago?
Yeah. I mean, it might be we're talking about in 2024, right?
We are talking about in 2024.
I mean, did Chet Powell win with the list that everyone was playing?
I don't know if it
I
won
mean, like way
any.
back early in the year, unless like the Ian Robb. Not did I don't think the Ian Robb list, Ian Robb DTE Mew list won. I
I
think the one
know.
from Breeza one was a little different.
I know that there was a Chen Pao deck with like a gazillion entries.
Oh wait, could it be towards Charizard list? Does it have 20 entries though?
Toward
Because it has a
from what?
win.
From EUIC?
Yeah,
It's probably that. I'm gonna
20
be
entries is a
honest.
lot. And that many, now did that many people really play Team Yelchier to shuffle into
Maybe
Present
not.
Rose?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Um,
Hmm. It would probably make more sense if it was like a testing group deck, right? That way, like
was it a?
multiple people played it and got like 4 finishes when they debuted it.
Both the
Oh, could it
wins
be?
were.
Oh no, Davidson's Michael Turbo Fox didn't win. I don't know. I'm struggling here. I think we named off a few good ones. What are you thinking, Parker?
Those are all good guesses. Like a lot of those are all really good guesses.
Are you
feel
saying
like
none of
it
them are
could.
right, or that we haven't locked any of them in?
I haven't said anything.
I feel like it could be Tina. Like I actually think like I think it was what John Ang.
I okay, so I did when I was doing homework for lists, I looked around the Tina list and I didn't see any that had a lot of overlap. So I don't think so.
I guess that they are a lot of them are fairly different.
Because some would play 3 waters or 3 jets or 2
Or two
waters or 1
temples,
water.
or
Like,
yeah, I
yeah.
was like, ugh.
We need an answer, boys.
It's not a Gardevoir deck, is there?
Oh, could it be Henry Chow's list?
It could
Oh, actually, no, the
be
Australian list. No, that was only at NAIC, and then no one played Guardian of Worlds, so it can't be that probably.
20 entry. Wait.
Has at
Wait,
least 20 entries.
Okay, does all 20 entries have to be that six? Or wait, what am
That
I
has to be
saying?
that
Yes,
six.
Has to
yes,
be
it
that exact
does.
60.
Fudge.
I mean, Rahul's Lugia list. No, it didn't have a win.
He didn't win. I was gonna say some Bolt list, like the seventh place world slot,
It's got to
but
just be
that didn't
towards
win.
Charizard list, right? Like, or I don't know. All right,
Gonna
what do
be
you think?
Hedrick's Lost Box list.
But who would have played that after NAIC? Like there just wasn't a lot of events after NAIC. That's the
That's
problem.
fair.
In my
Yeah.
opinion. All right, what do you think?
I can't say.
Just give me
Just
a-
go with Torrens, I guess.
All right.
Swords
So we'll lock
list.
in. We'll lock in. John Eng's 2024 Dortmund list, won by James Coxon. Coxon. I don't remember the original.
Sure. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
And then towards UIC winning list, Charizard list.
Towards Charizard list. Okay, well, obviously you guys are correct on the Reggie Drago with James Cox taking it down in Lille France. However, you guys are not correct on Towards Charizard list. I will give you one hint and see if you can get it. The deck that is the deck has not been mentioned.
The deck that is the deck has not been mentioned.
What else won?
And there's no way it's a Miraidon deck, right? Like,
No, I mean that would only be the Vancouver Miraidon list.
If you guys at home know what the other deck is right now while you're struggling, please enter it in the comments below while you press the like and subscribe button.
Yeah.
Because they're really struggling.
If it has this many entries, like it's got to be something reasonable, right?
It is a deck that Maddox loves to play very much.
Well, I mean, it's not my Fusion Mew list.
No, no, it's not that.
I mean, could it be Caleb Gettimer's Bolt list? I don't know if
I think that's too new. I don't know. I guess maybe a lot of people play it.
All right. I think you guys have struggled enough.
All right.
So I will reveal the answer to you. It is a deck piloted by Andrew Hedrick.
Oh, it's
You have it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Dialga V-Star.
Dialga V-Star has 23 limitless injuries on Andrew Hedrick's page.
That's a
There's
surprise
no.
to me.
I didn't even know that 23 people have played Dialga V-Star to a region.
Now, well, I mean, once I mean, Hedrick cracked the list. Everyone says, "I'm just gonna play this."
I guess so.
So yeah, that was a little fun. I had to do a little bit of homework. I was gonna do just the one, but I knew you guys would get it on Drago like pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I had to make it a little bit of fun. And I thought you guys would get there, but you didn't even mention the deck, which is wild.
Well,
that just got erased from my
Dialga.
memory, honestly. Like,
I mean, it
never
was
did
played
anything
in
ever again.
Indianapolis, Stockholm, Santiago, Mexico City, Los Angeles, Cape Town, and Bologna.
Yeah, but I like never did anything after he won with it.
So shout out to Dallas.
Dallas,
Friend of
yeah,
the
Dallas
pod.
got 4th place in Cape Town, bro.
There are like 160 people there or something.
Hey. Top 8.
That is true. That's true.
Top 8, yeah. Anyways, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad I stumped you guys. That was a good time. I enjoyed it. All right. So like I said before, this is gonna lead us right into our top 10 decks of the 2024 calendar year. We want to go ahead and get a little head start on this, and we'll talk all about Toronto meta next episode. But first, each of us need to give our honorable mentions because we did kind of come up with a compiled list of what we agreed to being a top 10. So each of us has some decks that kind of left out, that felt a little sour about, me particularly. But Maddox, you go first. What were some honorable mentions that didn't make the top 10 list that you were eyeing?
Yeah, so I mean, my top 10 list is pretty definitive because I'm the ultimate opinion of all things Pokemon meta.
That's
So,
facts.
Absolutely, facts. You're the pretty boy of
but
the podcast.
yeah,
Everything you say goes. It's just how it works.
no, they're just gassing me up because it's my birthday. But anyways, one deck that did not quite make my top 10, but was a consideration when we're considering all of 2024. Got to give a shout out to Chen Pao EX. Again, this is a deck that recently hasn't been doing too much in the meta, but earlier in the year, it still had a very prime place in the meta. Before rotation, utilizing Cross Switch or Cologne, before Cologne became a mainstream card in lots of decks.
Yeah.
But again, still just being a powerful deck. And it found different, places in the meta kind of across the board. We had Owen Kammerman with a regional win with it back at Dortmund in 2024, winning with Chen Pao, kind of putting things back on the map there pre-rotation. But then even after rotation, after in the EUIC meta when Charizard was back at it, Chen Pao saw a lot of play at EUIC, but then also had very big finishes in Orlando, but especially in Indianapolis, where we saw what 4 out of the top 8 decks being Chen Pao and it losing in finals to
exactly.
Dialga V Star as mentioned. So Chen Pao, while it's might not be the strongest deck right now, definitely had its strong places within the year 2024, even with the top 16 at Worlds and top 16 at NAIC. So again, lots of Chen Pao warriors out there. Very, very strong deck. Didn't quite make our top 10, but still a very strong year of Chen Pao.
Yep. Indeed, Chen Pao has been strong. Recently has top 16 in Sacramento, I
Yeah,
think, is what it was, right?
yeah, yeah.
So good to see it there. Parker, what's the honorable mention for you?
I had a bunch being Lax, Lugia, but Lugia ended up making the list. One for
No
me.
spoilers, bro.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! My
No
bad, my bad. Oh
spoilers.
my goodness! Everyone knew Lugia would be there, but mine. I have Roaring Moon, which was a deck that was like, oh my god, this card's broken, and then nobody did anything with it, and then people were like, "Oh, this deck stinks," and then they were like, Ross Cawthon came out with his list that played like researches for Dark Patch and everything. People were like, "Oh my god, it's good again!" And then from there, it just went on and on and on. I mean, second place at Worlds. If you scroll down like its list of finishes, like they kind of dwindled a little bit. But like after like the discovery of like, hey, you don't have to
Yeah,
just play Sadas in your deck.
yeah.
Um, they're like huge, huge, huge lists, especially earlier in the year.
The Galarian
With the,
Moltres V was so good for the deck.
yeah,
I missed that
yeah,
card so
yeah.
much.
VIP pass and the Moltres, everyone thought oh, the deck's not going to do anything anymore. And then boom, you test it, you just
Yeah.
throw a couple baby moons in there now.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
it's super good, super, super good.
Yeah.
The other like really big honorable mention is Terrapagos, which just I think just hasn't been out long enough,
Yeah.
but does already have a couple like major wins. And like I guess some people avoid it, just because it is a little bit on the like complex side of like finishing games, but
Right.
it's definitely super strong. And I think we're gonna see tons and tons of finishes from it like here on
Yeah, I
out.
agree. There's so many good partners for it, right? I mean, we got this just earlier right now. We see Cloth, being its partner. We've seen Dustnor be its partner. You know, we've seen Palkia be its partner. There's so many good partners to go with that card. Cloth kind of fell on honorable mentions for me as well. So Cloth Terapagos and just Cloth overall. But my other honorable mentions are more kind of fun decks. They're not like super strong in the meta. I played one of them to a major, and I got day two with it, so it's fine. And that's Sablezard. I've just ever since Tord made Sablezard like last year, one of the tournaments. I'm just like, man, it's so much fun just to get to Sableye as fast as possible and just cram Rant Sableye and then Radiant Charizard, all the big two prizers at the end of the game. So like Sablezard is an honorable mention for me, and another one is Anthony Bruno, big fan of it. He played to a couple of regionals, Zoroark box. It's kind of a similar to a Regidrago, right? But just never had its time to shine and kind of like have a Kyurem attacker or a Dragapult, other good, really good attackers. You kind of had to play a toolbox, and it just there was too many pieces you needed in the deck to make it keep functioning because you had to keep recycling your attacker every turn. But those are kind of my honorable mentions, but we'll jump right into the top 10. Maddox, why don't you kick it off with number 10?
Yeah, so our number 10 deck, a little bit of a new arriver to the scene, but our number 10 deck was Palkia Dusknoir. So again, when we look at all of 2024, is a little bit more of a recent addition. We saw it really show up for the first time in Baltimore right after the World Championships. And the list that I wanted to highlight specifically is Grafton Rules list that I guess bubbled out or played an asymmetrical cut for top eight with. But again, this I think was really the first major success of like the Pokestop and Night Stretcher engine. Really leveraging the power of Radiant Greninja and Palkia V-Star, along with an explosive power of Dusknoir. When this deck gets going, it's able to just completely, best case, completely wipe your board and end games before they even start, just with the immense power of the deck. And really, I think this deck as a whole showcasing again really that build that we're starting to see a little bit more. We're saying, hey, we play heavier counts of Pokestop and heavier counts of Night Stretcher. This can almost be our engine to recover Pokemon and to see more cards in the deck, and in turn discarding your Dusknoir into, okay, now I can just Night Stretcher Rare Candy, right? It's more efficient than an Ultra Ball. You don't have to discard as many resources in order to do it. Also, a little small piece, it did highlight the power of Greninja EX. We saw a 101 inclusion of Greninja EX in this deck, which has now been bumped up to a 201 or a 202 in some cases, or even seen Greninja EX splash into other decks. I think a bit of an underrated card that kind of gave a little bit of a spotlight to. So I think Palkia Dusknoir really fits its spot here due to its extreme power level, and then also I think to what it kind of created and how other decks are built today. As we've continued out throughout
Yeah,
2024.
it's kind of one of those decks that like it just found a way to use Blood Moon Ursaluna to its fullest potential by attacking for zero energy, like most games, just because of the way they can control the prize trade with the Dusknoir. But yeah, I think that deck is very strong. Parker, you want to kick us off with number 9 deck?
Number nine, personal favorite of mine, Giratina.
Boo!
Whoa, whoa,
Oh wait, let
whoa.
let, let him play. Hey,
Boo!
Whoa,
Eric,
whoa,
mute
whoa.
yourself. Let him say the name of the deck.
Giratina V-Star.
Yeah.
Was specifically referring to the Lost Zone engine of it. Um, the card is just good. It's for 280. And its V-Star just knocks anything out. So I mean, we saw it with Arctina. We see it now in Regidrago still. But the way the deck was played, you can sit across the table from anyone playing any deck, and if drew pretty well and played correctly, because I think the deck was honestly pretty like Kyogre was probably a little bit harder, but it's pretty tough to play like perfectly, especially against like every matchup. But it definitely rewards high level play. We saw that with John Ang winning and then Vinny winning with like slightly different lists, and then like there's just tons and tons of entries from here on out. I think it's a little bit phased out of like contention, just not like the deck or the speed itself, but Kirim exists as a card, and you can just bench him and kill three comfies or Cramoran two comfies or whatever. So that there's always the risk that's run with that deck that plays chorus, but the tons and tons of solid finishes, like I was confident enough, like it wasn't this year, obviously, but I played it to Worlds in Japan. Even though I didn't like test the exact 60 I played, but definitely I had it up a little bit higher than this, but it's also a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I think also with Tina, again, we saw it really dominate at the end of rotation earlier this year, where really in that January to March timeframe, right? It was a staple of meta game where you had to be prepared
Yeah.
for Giratina, and all decks were measured up on how do they do against Giratina. We saw lots of top players playing it all across the board, and we even saw it survive after rotation with Isaiah Bradner bringing it to second place at UIC with the unique Bayonet EX inclusion,
Right.
which really helped in some of the other matchups. So again, while it's not a deck that we see a lot right now, it's had its success throughout 2024, and I think warrants the placement here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those decks too that can like utilize Iron Leaves EX when not many decks could. When Charizard was really good, it was a very good counter to Charizard, which at the time was like the best deck, during that format. Um I don't know. I just hated the deck because it was so inconsistent, man. Get that
Yeah.
deck. You get some of your hands. You're just like, bro, what is
Like,
this?
what do I do
What do
here?
I even do here, man? Like flower selecting, I guess. Okay, pass. Like here you go, bud. But yeah, I mean, solid deck. I agree. It does deserve a top 10 placement. It's a very good deck. But yeah, Max, I think you've got the next one.
Yeah, the deck that Eric hates so much that I had to take it, and Eric's going to do back-to-back ones for the next two. But the deck we have to shout out and think very deserving of a top 10 placement here is Lugia V Star at number 8. Again, when I think about decks defining 2024, Lugia is a deck that demanded respect in the metagame. When Legacy Energy came out, it unlocked this brand new power for the deck. We saw it before with some limited power as like colorless engine or single strike. By the beginning of 2024,
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of it
single
was phased
strike.
out. Yeah, by 2024, like Lugia was kind of phased out. We saw too much Roaring Moon, too much Mew, too many other decks that made it hostile for it. But when Legacy came out in Twilight Masquerade, we really saw a resurgence of Lugia at NAIC, where it was a very strong play. But I think we've even seen the strongest form of it since then. The list I particularly want to call it is Rahul Reddy's Lugia list, which, while he never got that win with it, he had ninth place at Worlds and plus 2 top 8s, including a finals appearance with it. A list that was really leveraging the power of Iron Hands with Legacy Energy as well as that Lightning Energy. Again, a deck that, when Lugia is strong in the metagame like it has been during the middle of this year, your decks are demanding that you play Temple, demanding that you play Enhanced Hammer. This doesn't look very good coming off of the regional last weekend where, Lugia was sub 4% played, but we know that, Lugia, when it is good, it is a deck to watch out for because it inherently has some of the most broken abilities in the game. And if there's the right
Yeah.
combination of energy and attackers for it, then it's a deck that needs to be watched out for.
I think one of the most wild things we didn't talk about last weekend is it wasn't on the day one meta chart and it wasn't on the best of the rest day one meta chart. So it has kind of fallen off as of a little bit late, but everyone's favorite play is Ultra Ball double chops. And we just love to get them chops in the bin and attack, man. It's so good when it's good. It's just crazy how good it can be.
Oh, also, Temporal Forces, we brought Cinchino, of course.
Yeah,
Right, that was
Cinchino,
released
yeah.
this year. So, I
Yeah.
mean, again, that giving a whole new life to the deck as well as
Yeah.
Legacy Energy. Right, I remember NAIC being like, "Oh yeah, I have my Minchino swinging for 350 for 0 prizes." Like,
What am I gonna do with that?
So, again, a really, really strong deck. And I think, again, has come and gone in power throughout the year. I think the one thing holding it back is never quite saw that major win throughout the calendar year.
Does it not have a win this year at all?
Through my look, nothing in the West.
Wow. Wild. Wild. But you know what did have a win as recently as Sacramento, our seventh place deck, our seventh place deck
Number
in our
7.
top 10, number 7. My favorite, my beloved, Maridon baby. It is number 7. What else is there to say except for consistency? You've got a card in Maridon EX that just gets any 2 lightning Pokemon you want out of the deck and onto your bench. You got cards, you recently added to it like Area Zero Underdepths so that Raikou V can hit a lot harder. You've got cards like Magnemite and Magneton to, consistently get more energy onto the board. And you just always played the partners. You played Mew, you played Lumineon, you played Squawk, you played Mew EX, you played Iron Bundle, you played Lumineon, you played everything, right? It was just the one deck that like you played all of the support Pokemon in because it needed it, right? Like some again, we talked about the hands with Tina. Sometimes you could just have 4 lightning energies, 5 lightning energies, a Maridon, and a switch card, right? Like you got nothing, and so you need it. But with the power of electric generator, we're always going to get there, baby. You got some great finishes this year. You've got Landon Kettler. Kettler just won in Sacramento. We have Jesse Parker finish third with Maridon at the World Championships, and you had people like Ian Robb and Nathan Beck playing it all the way back to the early time of this year. You even had like different versions of like Peonidon that Azul even played, right? We would never thought Azul would have played like a deck like Maridon, but they did. Peony let you discard your hand, get any 2 cards, and then Mew EX to fill up your hand. Pretty good. Worked out pretty well for them. But yeah, so those are kind of the Maridon decks. And anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially Peony Miraidon back early in 2024 was very, very strong. We saw it played a lot by a bunch of different top players, and again, even getting that regional win in Vancouver. Another card to highlight there is that we had before Flaffy, of course,
Oh,
being
true.
great consistency to accelerate the energy into play, allowed you to play Raichu. Again, once rotation hit and we lost Flaffy, then Miraidon did drop back a little bit. We still saw some play here and there, but I think it has a brand new life at the end of 2024, which gives it a little bump up here. And again, just another major win. And again, when you look at a deck like Miraidon, that people in a vacuum might not say, "Hey, this deck isn't quite as strong as a Lugia." Miraidon does have the major wins to back it up, while Lugia doesn't.
Yeah, rest in peace, the goat. Um, I miss you, Flaffy. Come back. Oh wait, we have you back in spirit.
And Magneton, not quite, but
It's still pretty good.
another deck featuring Lightning Energy for number 6.
Number 6 deck, yeah, it does feature lightning energy. And it's been played all the way back to the beginning of April. There was some warriors playing this deck with the Sandy Shocks EX. But with the help of Twilight Masquerade, we did get the addition of Teal Mask Ogerpon into the Raging Bolt EX deck, which put this deck on the map. And it said, I'm gonna go fast. I'm gonna be the most consistent deck that takes the two prizes and two prizes over and over and over again. I'm gonna play cards like Pokemon Catcher in my deck. I want your two prizer that's on the bench. I don't care about your Ralts in the active. Give me the Gardevoir EX. I want the big boy. Because it just sawdoes, Teal Dance, attach, and just blow you to smithereens. It is the deck that's been so powerful. Everyone, when you play against it, you're just well, there are some counters to it and some favored matchups for against it. It is so scary to play against when you play against Raging Bolt. You had people like, Dom, back in the day, really being a big fan of it, playing even the Lost Zone version of this deck, because it was such a good attacker and he can hit big numbers. But we saw it win in the Champions League. We saw it win, do really well at NAIC, got top 16. Caleb Gettimer won with his list most recently, after his year off from Pokemon and came back. The deck is just very strong. In every tournament, it's number one or number two played deck, most popular deck, and it's always up towards top tables, like wrecking havoc and trying to do its best it can. It keeps decks like Regidrago in check, like Dragapult in check. Otherwise, those decks would just be running rampant. But yeah, Bolt number 6, very very strong deck. Doesn't have a lot of wins. It has a couple of wins, but just overall very strong, consistent deck to bring in at number 6.
Yeah.
What a
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, this next deck has a bit of a good matchup against it, usually.
True, true.
You let us right into it. Maddox, what do you got at number 6? Number
So
5, excuse me, number 5.
5. Again, we're cracking the top 5. So when we're looking at the top 5, these are some of the strongest decks that have existed in 2024 from our look. And number 5, we have Gardevoir EX. So again, when we talk about decks with extremely high power level, I mean, Gardevoir EX has always been in that conversation. I think for a while when rotation was happening earlier this year, right, we saw, I think Vancouver was the time we saw Gardevoir last played with Shining Arcana, had Moonlit Hill, had all these pieces. People were really nervous. Hey, once we lose all this, we're going to no longer have the Gardevoir EX. But then we still saw some strong finishes within Orlando. And then for Twilight Masquerade, we saw Munkidori get released. And Munkidori just gave a whole new level of this deck of controlling damage, of having new attackers. We saw it come out and dominate the North American International Championship back in June. And really since then, it's kind of ebbed and flowed. It's been a deck that, has been better calls for some events, worse calls for some events. But what has not changed is that extremely skilled players playing this deck and innovating it and playing it at a very, very high level. Right? We've seen this deck innovate and continue to change. Right? Early, we saw it playing Hero's Cape as a way to, hit big damage Screamtail. We saw it move to a Disruption build with Unfair Stamp. And then, right, so when we featured on the podcast before, Henry Chow winning the Baltimore Regionals in a Regidrago format with Kyurem and Dragapult running rampant was a Turbo Gardevoir deck built with Secret Box. We're talking about a deck that has been able to innovate and overcome all the obstacles for it. I mean, Gardevoir, there's barely any deck other than Gardevoir. Such a high power level when it's played well, and the people who choose to pick it up continue to innovate it, play it so well. that even in the most unfavored of matchups, if you're playing against an experienced Gardevoir player, they will find that way, and the deck does have this incredible comeback potential for it. And again, we're still even seeing it now, cracking top four with yet a new ace spec with Call Bell and a Precious Trolley, right? I mean, probably of the one deck that's played all these different ace specs. I mean, Gardevoir is very unique in that, and it's had strong finishes throughout all of
Is that the
2024.
last? Is that the last like strongest deck to play Reversal Energy with Shining Arcana? Has there been
Um,
any other deck this year that's like been able to use that card consistently?
I mean, not at least a meta deck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
nothing
like
super meta. Yeah.
God, the Shining Arcana Reversal Energy that thing was scary,
Yeah.
man. Especially if they pre-attached one and sometimes just got two onto it later in the game. That thing was scary.
Yeah.
Speaking of scary and turbo and fast, Parker, number four,
Another comfy deck for me. Wow, big surprise. But
shocker.
um, yeah, Lost Zone box. I mean, I when I say box, I mean it wholeheartedly in its truest form. It is the most boxiest of decks I think that you could play right now. If you scroll through all of 2024, you will see many different Pokemon next to Comfy. You'll see Kyogres, you'll see Iron Hands and Roaring Moons and Charizards, and Sableyes, and the whole lot. But if you look at all of its finishes, it's got a ton and ton of like top fours, seconds, and like a few wins here and there. Andrew Hedrick took it to NAIC. I think that's like the biggest Western tournament as far as players go of all time still, and took it home with Lost Box, which a lot of people kind of like discounted at the time a little bit. Um, you see people shy away from it for a bit just due to Reggie Drago, another deck that came out of NAIC, getting its new friend Kirim in the Shrouded Fable set, and that card says, "I hate you, Lost Box." If you hate Lost Box, you include that card in your deck.
Pick me,
um,
pick me.
yeah, but even if you're not playing Chorus, Drago can still use the Cure. They're
Yep,
just regular attack, but in this
yep.
matchup, you just bench it and attach to it and take multiple prizes just for you playing the game. But it's seeing a bit of a resurgence now. Pikachu EX, super good card. I think
Very
that
good.
we're definitely going to see some Lost Box, still going strong into 2024 and even into 2025. But the versatile ways that you could navigate through games and uh, even just all the crazy deck lists people have come up with. The Kyogre one, which used to be like a bulk card you would like blow your nose with, ended up being pivotal in a lot of Lost Boxes' success. Being able to Aqua Storm and hit two things for 250 at the end of the game, pretty crazy.
Yeah,
But yeah, definitely. I put it as one of the top dogs, but I think after some conversating, our number one pick's a little more deserving.
yeah, definitely a strong deck. We didn't even mention really Sableye too much, and that deck's just super strong for all the evolution decks.
Yeah.
Just knocking out Charmanders before they become 330 HP mammoths or anything like along those lines. Greninja plus Sableye kind of always was 210, pretty good math numbers. So there was a lot of really good reasons that Lost Zone Box did well. Anything to add there, Maddox?
No, I mean, again, a deck that is been able to adapt and bring in new tools, right? We saw it bringing in Iron Hands. Basically, as soon as that was available, we saw it
Oh
bringing in a
yeah,
big inclusion of Blood Moon Ursaluna when Twilight Masquerade came out, and
yeah,
again now continue to innovate with Pikachu EX and just new ways of bringing all these different attackers. Again, really capitalizing on the toolbox. It just shows you how like inherently strong this Lost Box engine is and how much has been able to capitalize. And again, despite Jirachi being a card, despite Kieran being a
Hiram.
card, this
Yeah,
card is still winning tournaments and still showing up in big numbers and doing very well.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, it's one of those decks that like once when you see how many counters are printed against it and see it do well, we're going well. So yeah, let's move on to number three. We're at the big three, y'all. We got a podcast full of three co-hosts here. I'm so happy to have you here. If you've been here so long, hopefully you know what our three decks are coming. If you should, if you have some guesses, please comment below what you think the top three are going to be and in what order. But I'll go ahead and kick us off at number three. Prior to the North American International Championships, this deck had one limitless entry in a standard tournament. That's how strong this deck is. It didn't come on the scene until June, and it's making our top three. We, of course, are talking about Regidrago V Star. Jacob I put the deck kind of on the map on people's radar at North American International Championships when he finished 14th place with the card. We always like in our mind, we always like looked at Dragon Attackers like, man, those are good, right? Like we've had Dragonite V that was in Lost Zone box. We've had other Dragon Attackers that we've always wanted to use, but Regidrago copies Dragon attacks from the discard pile as its attack effect. So it can use cards like Dragapult, Kyurem, which came out in Shrouded Fable. It can use Giratina V Star, which is a very good 280 attacker. Dragapult, attack do 260 to the bench. Now you've got the Executor that you can put in the deck that says flip a coin, knock out a basic in the active or a basic on the bench, depending on what you get. There's so many good attackers. It's just a big, big toolbox. We saw at 3 to 4 tournaments in a row, the deck win the tournament, have multiple top eights, 4 to 5 results in top eight. It's just been very dominant. James Cox won in France at the World Championships. This deck was everywhere. It kind of got countered a little bit by our champion playing Quad Thorns. And Maridon did well as well. That's it's just been the deck to beat since North American International Championships, and it's just crazy how a deck comes out of nowhere. A V card that's from Silver Tempest has been sitting in the binder, has no limitless entries, and then out of nowhere just owns the format. It's really, really impressive deck, and it's just really strong. It can also play Radiant Charizard, which is probably the best rating attacker in the game as far as attacker. Greninja can argue because of its ability to draw cards. But as far as a strong attack, it's very, very good. What are your guys' thoughts on Drago at number three?
Definitely. I took it on my Baltimore run.
Yeah,
Um, it's just the best deck I think, and it's pretty versatile. Um, you can include attackers like Gudra, even that a lot of people aren't playing, but like that attack's pretty amazing too. But it's just so versatile. It's pretty quick. If you can set up without using your V-Star, you can set up checkmates pretty like really easily. It's just a super strong, solid deck.
Yeah. Again, a card that wasn't seeing play really prior to NAIC, Jacob I just kind of, if you look at Jacob I's Regidrago list today, it is nothing like it is, but it was that initial step that, got us to where it was, saying we're going to utilize all the cards in Twilight Masquerade. We have Dragapult EX is a very strong attacker. We have Teal Mask Ogerpon to accelerate energy into play. We're playing 4 copies of Energy Switch. I thought that was just that bulk trainer that came out in Scarlet and Violet, or that's just been a staple of the format,
yeah,
right? The
yeah,
way that this deck is built is saying I'm going to research and I'm going to find the cards that I need and set up incredibly strong attackers that gives me so many versatile options. And Legacy Star, an overlooked ability, but really letting you recover any 2 cards from the discard. Like that type of effect is so powerful. We rarely see anything like that in the trading card game. And again, in the right player's hands, being able to find the right formula and put this together. Again, we saw it going from a 0.1% play at NAIC to a 25% play at Worlds, where
yeah,
lots of players have since then continued to see it as a dominant choice and a very, very strong option to bring to tournaments, which again makes it, because of how strong it's come onto the scene, even though, like you said, it's only half a year, but 2024 is the year of Regidrago.
yeah. Really, really has been and still is. We're currently living in that format. Speaking of format dominators, our number two deck was a format dominator for its time. Parker, tell us all about it.
Um, yeah, so there's a certain guy on the podcast that played this deck a lot.
Who's
That
that?
deck is Mew. That is Maddox, Cramomaddox, as we call him. Um,
New VMAX.
this here Mew deck came out in Fusion Strike, which was like a set that was like 3 years old at this point, and is was still just dominating the format. I mean, like they printed a card like Drapion, which just says bench it and kill Mew EX. Guess what? It still kept winning. They printed a card that said your opponent can't use Genesects, and they just kept on winning. I don't know. Well, I would say that there
And
was
Path to Peak
actually,
exists.
yeah, Path to the Peak. Like decks started running like 3 paths, and guess what? It just didn't matter because it started playing Path itself to lock your opponent's abilities out from play. But besides maybe like Evil Tall EX, I can't remember a singular card or archetype being this dominant for this long. I mean, like you'd think by now, like it's 3 prize with 310 HP. The other best deck in format's a dark type that just one shots it when it evolves. Like you'd think it'd kind of phase out, but no, it was swinging until the very end. Um, still putting up crazy results even at the end of its time. Um, so I mean, like drawing 6 4 times a turn is like pretty good, I hear. But it was a bit interesting seeing how different Mew decks adapted to the metas and stuff. Like some of them started playing this card or this card, and then when Grabber came out, it was like, oh boy, I get judged, pathed, and then grabbered. Like that's so fun. Um, but yeah, I mean, just always a super strong, fast deck. I mean, the fusion version of it, like I sat across from there, they're typically hitting my guy for knockout on the first turn. Like, it's
Max knows all
pretty
about
gross.
that.
Yes, he does.
I mean, it's just the deck that, like, Max, how'd you ever say this? Like, it could play 12 bad cards and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a time they played Crushing Hammer in the deck. I won a cup with that in the deck. That way you can get rid of the reversal energy against Carnivore. Fabrizio won a tournament with DTE Mew this year. Even our own Maddox Corcoran got third place in January at Portland. So been a crazy year for the deck. Its adaptations have been insane to watch. And I'm unsure if we would have a third host of the Beach Court podcast if that card did not exist. What do you think, Max? Do you think this
Uh,
single-handedly you would not be here without this card?
well, I mean, I was doing the podcast before I did well with Portland with Movie Max, but definitely, Movie Max again, a deck that's near and dear to my heart. The guys actually had it listed higher than me. But again, when we look at a card that even though it was only legal for a portion of the year, when you look at inherent power level of the deck, there's just so much to Movie Max and all the different variants of it. Again, the cards that really placed highly on our list were cards that really demanded the format that they were played in. And again, even in these first 3 months of 2024, you had to be ready for Mew because it was going to show up. And when people were not ready for it in Portland, it swept, right? We saw, of course, I got third place with the Fusion Mew build, being able to put a lot of pressure on and have that early donk potential. But then we also saw Ian Robb and Vance Kelly show up with now a DTE Mew build that had a built-in answer to Spiritomb, which people were starting to play to counter Mew. This deck, when you talk about like the power level of decks, there's some cards like Chen Pao and Tina that we've already talked about on the podcast earlier on our list. And these are cards that you can still go to a tournament today and play with. However, no one does because they have just fallen off in power. I mean, Mew is a deck that, literally could only be stopped by saying these cards are no longer legal when our rotation happened.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to the power of a deck. Again, a deck that I sincerely miss playing, but it's had its great time and still happy to have it here in top decks of 2024.
Yeah. It is a very good deck. Let's talk about our number one deck of 2024. And no one other than our golden birthday boy is going to tell us what our number one deck is.
All right.
Max, please tell us what our number one deck is.
Our number one deck, if you've been listening so far, you know what this is. It's no secret to everyone. We're talking about Charizard EX. right? This deck came onto the scene late in 2023, never quite saw its full potential. We started to see it pick up some steam right at the end of 2023. But 2024 is really the year of, Charizard EX and being that deck that needs to be commanded and needs to be known about and have an answer for. When we talk about, again, decks setting the power level of the format as a whole, 330 self-accelerating energy. Oh, and by the way, at the end of the game, it can also just hit 300 or 330 and knock out anything. I mean, this deck, was, I think, kept in check somewhat by relying on Battle VIP Pass and having Path to the Peak in format. But again, with rotation happening in April, right, you saw right out of the gate Tord Reklev winning the European International Championship with Charizard EX, Pidgeot EX. I mean, and that deck list alone really defining how Charizard is built today and played since. We've seen iterations, and again, Charizard's continued to gain new tools since it's come out, right? I think especially the Dusknoir package and being able to play all these pieces to now say, oh, look, I have a Pokemon that I have a deck that likes to play Counter Catcher and does more damage as the game goes on. Okay, cool. Well, let me just pop a Dusclops, put 50 damage on your V-Star, counter catcher it to the active, and hit it with a Defiance Band and knock it out, right? Taking these big swing turns and knockouts out of nowhere. Again, it's a deck that we continue to see piloted by top players, does very, very well. Again, is decks that do well against it are seen played heavily in the format because they do well into it. Things like Regidrago. Part of what makes it so good is that, hey, it has a good Charizard matchup. But again, Charizard is a deck that if it's not respected, it'll continue to show up. And at the end of the day, 330 HP, self-accelerating energy, swinging for 300 at the end of the game, pretty hard to beat. And again, a deck that really commands the format and says, if you're playing a deck to a regional, bet as someone's going to ask you, how does it do against Charizard?
Yeah. And one of the most non-relevant weaknesses that we've had all season in a grass weakness, right? There's a counter card, but no one plays it because it's just not like grass just isn't supported well right now and doesn't do very well into Zard. But it's pretty interesting. It's just a very powerful deck. Rare Candy Pidgeot, Rare Candy Charizard, Rare Candy Dusknoir, Rare Candy Greninja EX these days. There's just so many things that Zard can do. Yeah, Rare Candy
Radiant Zard,
so many things.
Counter Catcher and Fair Stamp. Some are playing Precious Trolley. Of course, Towards Bill originally played Prime Catcher. Some are playing on Hero's Cape. Now you have a 430 HP, right? A deck that's really versatile and it's just continued to be played in different ways. And again, when you just see this deck, when you see someone flip over Charizard or a Charmander, you say, okay, you kind of buckle down and be like, okay, they can do a whole bunch of things, and you got to be ready for it.
Right. Any added comments there, Parker?
I was gonna mention the weakness thing, how like literally nothing good could hit
Mask
it.
is really only it.
Like well,
Teal
Mask
Teal
came
Mask,
out,
yeah.
and Teal Mask came out and is an answer, but Zard players can still tiptoe their ways around that with Radiant Zard, or like sometimes double Dusknoir on it, or stuff like that. Like, um, but yeah, it's just a deck that at the surface level is pretty simple, but like is very, very commanding in like the right player's hand.
Yeah. I do want to give a special shout out to the Brazilian crew from LAIC last year who kind of like were the discoveries of Arvin Zard and the Zard how we know it today. Because before that, everyone kind of tried some things. But really, Arvin Zard really kind of put the deck on the map.
I know another card, again, we talked about continuing to get tools, right? We talked about Dusknoir. Pheasantipity EX, again, every deck got that. But I think a lot of decks today in Standard, you could focus on, okay, if I take out the Pheasantipity, then can limit their draw on options. I think Charizard, right, if you're saying, okay, I have a Pheasantipity down, but I also have a Pidgeot EX down, I also have a massive Charizard that can knock out anything. So
yeah,
I think a deck that leverages it very well, saying, before I played a B-Barrel engine as some extra consistency, there's so many different ways to play it. And I think, again, Tort's list being that standard of coming this ultra consistent list with the Cleffa, with, some have played TM Evo, so many different ways to deal with it. And again, just an attacker that demands your respect. You can't gust around it. You can't ignore it. It's going to keep swinging. The amount of games people win with just, I set up one or two Charizard EX and I just win because you cannot do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's our top 10 decks of 2024. I hope you enjoyed the segment. If we missed something, if you were livid or you agree, post your comments below, press the subscribe button while you're there. It really helps out the podcast so much. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Beach Court Podcast. We'll be back next week to discuss the Perth Regionals as well as get you prepared for Toronto Regional Championships in a week and a half. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.